The investor confidence always gets undermined when there is high level of crime. And that's why we said let's convene this crime summit as one of interventions in the fight against crime. If you have forums that goes around extorting money or demanding money from people, if a tourist would not feel safe if they come here, it means they will not be coming. And that will undermine the investment, that will undermine the potential growth of the economy.
We have actually invited all sectors of our society, whereby we are actually soliciting their wisdom on how can they advise government on how to deal with the criminality that is happening and worrying us as the province of Kwa-Zulu Natal. We are very, very much concerned. Other provinces, other people are even regarding us as a murder province because all serious murders are actually happening in the province of Kwa-Zulu Natal. There is a perception that we are even producing hitmen from this province of Kwa-Zulu Natal. How can that happen? You know, we can't allow that to happen. Hence, we have invited all sectors like Amakosi are here, the academia from various institutions of higher learning are here. The police management is here, correctional services, including the inmates who are already incarcerated in the correctional services centers. They will share with us about the psychology of a criminal. What do they think before they go and murder someone? What could be the causal factors for that, so that we may deal with such issues? We have decided to invite mayors here. We have a number of them who have attended this crime prevention summit. Simply because in one of the slides that was reflected on by the Provincial Commissioner, we did indicate that the issues of environmental design are also assisting the criminals to continue to become perpetrators of criminality. If there are no street lights in areas around Inanda, Maudi, and all those areas, it's very difficult for the police vehicles to travel, you know, and look for criminals or in those areas. If the access roads are not maintained, if the vegetation along those access roads is not dealt with, it becomes very, very difficult for the police to deal with criminality around those areas. So we will be pleading with the leadership from municipalities to deal with such issues.
eThekwini has been positioned to be a smart city, having cameras all over, and then ensure that there is a coordinating point, but that point also should feed to police, and that help us to ensure that innovation is effectively used as a tool to fight crime.
We've had quite good successes of late. It's a pity because our crime stats are released on quarterly basis, which I guess it's helping the community and society and all the interested parties to plan going forward. But at times it feels like you are giving the score of a match before the match is over, because we're on a quarter basis, and yet we've got a whole year where we need to be measured in terms of our performance. But when you look at the current 2 months since April to date, the picture looks completely different than what we had in a previous month. There are many other things that are influencing that. Last year, in the same reporting period, we had a different level of lockdown as compared to what we had this year. So those are the contributing factors to some extent. but we will continue trying to improve in terms of our strategies in fighting crime at Inani. When you look at the conditions that we had last year, in terms of the pandemic that we had and the disaster management regulations that were imposed in public, level of restrictions and some businesses that were not operating. So the level of crime then reduced last year because the opportunities for crime was not there. The offenders could not find victims easily because some businesses were closed, so therefore those possible victims were not available. So the opportunity for crime was not that much. So when you compare that with this year everyone is walking about their business, majority of businesses are open, if not all, and it's a normal business. So the reality will be, look at this year as compared to 2019. But unfortunately, we are not doing that. We are comparing with the previous year's reporting period. So that's why when you look at the stats, it's going to tell you a very high level of crime, but it might not necessarily, and you're not able to compare all the factors that are taken into consideration that makes that picture. Part of the mitigating factors is this summit that we have. We are here in order for us as police to communicate that, for starters, don't judge the police performance on crime stats. You shouldn't. Because if that is the measurement, it means you might as well not register the crime as police. So if you don't register the crime and then the stats is going to look good, but then the victim will not be happy. So if you look at the victim's survey stats, it tells a different story. So we might have to then ask ourselves that if a victim is unhappy, then aren't you supposed to blame the police that the victim is not happy? But if you blame the police again, alone, is it the police alone that makes a victim unhappy? There are victims that are unhappy, like you've heard on a testimony of one of them today. Is not happy, the victim, simply because the crime that was committed and the punishment that goes with the crime is not satisfactory to the victim. So, but the police has arrested a person and sent him to prison and sent him to court, but the court issue a different punishment that is not worth of the crime. So why then do you blame the police? So the victim is not happy. If you do the survey, the victim will always blame the police because they are the initiator of the whole value chain. So these are some of the challenges. That's why we're in the summit, to try and find solutions.
We acknowledge that when there is crime or when crime is committed, there is a perpetrator or an offender, but at the same time there is a victim who suffer the harm. Sometimes the victim is a family or an entire community. And so there can be no doubt that in sharing these unique experiences, those who are victims are reclaiming their power, their voice, and their agency, and refuse to be defined by the offenders. As we meet to encourage men and women in blue to do more.
I was raped and gunshot on my left. I was left in a pit toilet to die.
For me to be here today is to share my story, also for those who are not able to share it, and also for the government to hear our cries as victims. Just like my story, I am crying about my perpetrator, who is now going to get a parole. After the meeting, when he showed that he had no remorse of what he did. So for me to come here, I'm hoping that they will see how much are we suffering as victims. Then there will be a change. And also they will consider us. Because now we feel that the perpetrators, they are the ones they are giving attention to. They are the ones who has rights, who over us as their victims. Maybe by speaking out, coughing out my feelings about this, maybe someone will listen to me. Maybe someone will consider my cry, my plea, that he should finish his sentence. People like him, I don't think they deserve parole. So you tell me, they say they give people paroles because of their good behavior.
In that meeting, if you were listening to my story, was there any good behavior in that? There was none. For me, the fear, I don't want to lie, it's coming back. I fear for my life. I don't feel safe because last time I saw him, he was angry. So I don't know what he's thinking. I'm really scared. The fear is back.
We recognize that police themselves are also victims of crime. They die in the line of duty or even when they are off duty. Day by day, criminals seem to be getting emboldened. Some even target police stations to steal firearms. Not long ago, they even murdered a prosecutor in one of the districts here. It will take all of us not to let our country live in fear or be run by those with a mafia mentality. The fight against crime, it's a responsibility of each and every sector and each and everyone. It is not a mere responsibility of police alone.
I have hope that when we are able to engage like we are doing today and bring everyone on board and try and find a solution. So that's a first step. Because once everyone identifies where the problem is and everyone identifies their role in this whole crime phenomenon that we face, we'll be able to come with solutions. So I'm hopeful that we are going to come with solutions going forward.
As we are here because we have realized that the partnership is most important. We work in disintegrated ways, parallel to each other, but we are saying if we can combine our resources, the strategy, and have one strategy, we will make a huge impact. So this partnership between the public, the private, which means the government and private sector and community at large, will be important, will be a foundation that will help us defeat crime.